You know the terrible feeling where you have something very important to do, but instead you end up on your phone scrolling Instagram, or you're going through shorts, or you're on a random YouTube rabbit hole. Maybe even right now, maybe that's what you're doing. And it's not ideal, but it's not laziness, it is procrastination. And you need to stop doing it. And if you're not careful, procrastination, it'll hold you back. And there's a few things that have really helped me with procrastination. And so in this video, we're gonna talk about what procrastination is, why it happens, and then I'm gonna give you 7 ways that you can attack procrastination in your life. Hey, I'm Michael. I'm a husband, youth pastor, and PhD student. And on this channel, we discuss personal and professional development from a Christian perspective. So what is procrastination? Well, procrastination, we can define it as the unnecessary delay of something important, even when you know it'll hurt you later. And then ultimately, procrastination is a self-control problem. At its core, it's choosing what feels good now instead of what is best for you later. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not laziness necessarily. A lazy person doesn't want to do anything at all, but somebody who procrastinates, they know or they have the motivation to do something, but they have a problem getting started. But the actual getting started at a later time is not a problem. You could also say delay itself isn't bad. Sometimes delay is really smart because there are some emails that I get, and if I respond to them in the moment, they're gonna handle themselves if I just wait or if I just delay. So that's a wise use of delay, and that's not necessarily procrastination. The difference is procrastination is when you should and or you can have, you have all the material that you need to start right now, but you choose not to. And in reality, it'd be better for you to start right now, but you're choosing what feels good at first. Now, the difficulty with procrastination is that when you have something that you have to do, you know you have to do it, you have 2 options, do it or don't do it, okay? But at the end of the day, you want relief, and you're having a little bit of stress because something is overhanging, there's something that requires your attention, and a procrastinator will put off something to get the feeling of relief. And the problem is you can develop a habit of doing that. Anytime you have stress, your habit loop, your reaction is put it off. Instead of what you want your habit loop to be is being action oriented. Because when you're action oriented, that means that you have stress that comes and you have a project that needs to be done, but instead of putting it off to get relief, you start working on it. Maybe it's just planning. And honestly, planning is a big reason why a lot of people struggle with procrastination because they don't have a good plan in place. Even though procrastination has its challenges, yes, you can beat it. And personally, I've struggled with procrastination before, but I've made progress in a few different areas. But before we get into those solutions, you need to understand what causes procrastination, because procrastination, it doesn't just happen, but there are real reasons that cause it. And these causes, well, one of them is the fear of failure. You think, if I don't start, then I can't fail. And some people, they'd rather delay failing than risk doing something poorly. But at the end of the day, you're gonna fail. And if you wanna get good at anything, it's gonna take failing. So facing the reality that, you know what, there's no reason to be afraid of failing, because that literally failing is what makes you better at things. Facing that reality will help you with procrastination. Another reason that causes procrastination is that people feel overwhelmed. They think, I have too much to do, so I'm not gonna start. But the truth is that even some of the most high-performing people that have the most things to do, they don't necessarily always feel overwhelmed, but it's not because they don't have a lot to do. It's because they have a plan. So how much you have to do is not what causes you to feel overwhelmed, but whether or not you have a plan of executing what you have to do. Perfectionism, we've heard this before, perfectionism causes people to procrastinate because you think, if I can't do it in a perfect way, then I'm not gonna do it at all. So you wait until the last minute, and then you end up doing nothing, and it ends up causing all kinds of chaos and commotion in your life. But you think, oh, okay, well, I can't do it perfect, so I'm not gonna do it at all. That causes procrastination. Here's the 4th reason that causes procrastination, and that is a lack of clarity. If you don't know where to start, and this goes back to planning, then often people, they don't start at all. And the solution is to start small. You're not gonna do anything perfect the first time. And your plan is probably gonna change. So if you have this big looming task that you need to start, you're not probably going to put a plan in place that is perfect the first time. But whenever you put some kind of a plan in place, even if it's going to change, you're moving towards the completing of that project. So make sure that if you're procrastinating, say you're procrastinating a budget. Let's make it practical, for example. You look at, step one is you need to look at this month's spending. So if you just think, oh, I'm over budget, and you get stressed out and you think, oh, it's just so much work, well then you're doing what it takes to procrastinate. You're not creating a plan, and you're just looking at a task as very vague and ambiguous. But if you get specific, you say, all right, I know that I need to have a budget, and so step one is I'm gonna look at last month's spending. And then step two is I'm going to write down the reoccurring expenses. And then step three is I'm going to build some kind of a way to track the spending. So now you have a starting point. And it doesn't mean that you're going to always stick with that plan that you just threw out there. But instead of responding with putting off doing the budget, you responded with, I'm going to put a plan in place. Those two decisions, those two ways that people get relief, because we all have things that we have to get done. And the way that you remove that stress or you get that relief, some people put it off and then they let it bite them in the butt later. And then others work on it right away, knowing they're not going to do it perfect and they may have to revise the plan. But whenever you have a tendency towards action, that is going to help you solve the problem. So those are a few causes, but ultimately, how do we defeat procrastination? Well, one of the first ways that you can defeat it is think about your future self. Remember the last time you procrastinated and you're very stressed, and in adult life, it can cost you money big time, and it can even affect your health. The late nights, all the regret. Think about the last time and remember that, ultimately it does not help you to put something off. Another way that you can defeat procrastination is accept uncomfortable feelings. So you know that you're not always going to feel like starting. Congratulations, that's part of life. That's completely normal. But maturity and being effective in what you have going on is not just focusing on your feelings, but understanding, you know what, I may not always feel like getting started, and I might have something important to do, and I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to choose to do it anyways. That is a huge part of defeating procrastination, because it's okay to not feel like doing something. That's totally fine. That's actually part of life, especially in the spiritual life. You don't always feel like praying or reading scripture. If you do, that's awesome. Whenever you do those things, you feel good later. But there are times where you feel like doing the right thing, but if you rely on those feelings, then you're not going to like the results, because as humans, we have a sin nature, and if you constantly wait and you feel like you have to have the good feelings to start a project, then you're going to be far more susceptible to procrastinating. Another way you can beat procrastination, the third way, is by starting for 5 minutes. Tell yourself, I only have to work on this project for 5 minutes. If you have a really long reading report, say, I'm only going to read the introduction, only got to work on it for 5 minutes. This has helped me in the past, because sometimes whenever I started that 5-minute reading, I ended up, after the action, having the motivation to finish all the reading. And my rule was just start, but even though I started with 5 minutes, I was able to do a lot more, and I was motivated too. So start small for 5 minutes. Even if you don't have a plan, just say, I'm going to put a plan together for 5 minutes. Whatever the case, whenever you use those 5 minutes to get yourself working, you can kind of hack your brain's system a little bit, because you get yourself going, and then action leads to motivation, so you have more motivation. The fourth way you can beat procrastination is by taking one small step. So instead of just doing 5 minutes, put down an action. For me, it was always opening a new Word document, creating the outline, and doing the title page, because if you write, that can be something that is daunting at times and hard to get started. So do one small thing, okay? Similar to the 5 minutes, but slightly different because it's more task oriented. The fifth way that you can beat procrastination is by focusing on progress, not perfection. When I have these big reading projects, I have 2,000 pages that I have to read. And basically, there's like 5 weeks of this doctoral seminar that we do at home, and then we go in person to present our work. And then the last month, it's a 15-week class. Then the last whatever weeks are left, we're writing. And I have to read 2,180 pages before I write a 25 and then a 15-page paper. Well, that's a lot of reading. And I have this idea of when I want it done, but I'm tracking it in terms of time. So I sit down and I read for an hour and I say, here's how many pages that took, how many pages I got through, how long it took to get through this in an hour, and then I look at how many more pages are left, I make an average, and then I break down all the reading into time. But one thing that has really helped me is by focusing on the progress, not the completion of the project. Because if I focus on the completion of the project, if you're reading 2,000 pages, it's gonna take a while, and it can be very discouraging. But if I instead watch the pages add up from 100 pages this day, so now I'm at 300 pages, now I'm at 4, today I'm at 1,500 something pages. That is very encouraging because I'm focusing on the progress, not the perfection or the completion of the project. Another way you can beat procrastination is by removing distractions. This is just a way to make yourself better at whatever you want to be better at, but your environment matters so much. If your phone is always next to you, you're probably going to check it, and it's far wiser to set yourself up in a spot where the phone is not getting your attention all the time. If you watch this channel, I don't have notifications on my phone other than for messages and phone calling because that's related to work. But all the other apps on my phone don't give me notifications. And you do have to stay on top of things for the different softwares like Canvas and the different things that you have to do for work if you're gonna have no notifications. But in general, if you remove those notifications, you're taking away distractions. Another way you can beat procrastination by removing distractions is just go to a place that you're not gonna be, someone's not gonna come up to you and distract you and talk to you. Maybe you have an office that is very busy and you need to go to a coffee shop. But if you're going to a coffee shop and everybody knows you there, then you need to go somewhere else. Find a place that you can go that you're not gonna get distracted and you're gonna be able to completely focus on what you have to get done. And then don't leave until that part of the project is completed. The 7th way that you can beat procrastination is by practicing some kind of self-compassion. Now, I'm not really a big feel sorry for yourself guy. That's not at all what this point is. But you do need to know that you're gonna mess up. You're probably gonna procrastinate on procrastination. And that doesn't mean that you've completely failed. It just means that you're learning. But if you quit, then you're gonna keep procrastinating. And many people, they live a life full of procrastination. But if instead of quitting, you build a plan and you get back to it, then you're eventually gonna learn how to stop procrastinating. And there's a bunch of different little hacks, and as you experiment with those, some may work better than others. And then eventually you don't have to follow the rules anymore, it's who you become. So keep working on it, don't quit, and you will be able to beat procrastination if you stick with it. If none of the other information in the video convinced you, then stop procrastinating, because God calls all of us to steward our time well. And when we put things off that God has called us to do, even in the little things, that removes opportunities for us to serve Him in the future. And I even think of the parable of the talents. The man who buried his treasure, he could have procrastinated on investing it. At the end of the day, stop procrastinating. It's not gonna be easy to stop that bad habit, but it's gonna hold you back from who God wants you to become. So work on it. And if this video helped you, I hope that you'll share it with somebody else, and we'll see you guys in the next one.